Hey YouTube, well today I'm going to be making a review of my 49cc Chinese scooter. I've owned 4 different Chinese scooters so far. I've had two 49cc 4-strokes, I've had a 49cc 2-stroke, and I've had a 150cc 4-stroke. So I consider myself a bit of an expert on these bikes, as pathetic as that sounds. And I guess the question everyone wants to know right off the bat is, should you buy one of these bikes? And my answer to that, I thought about this at length, and my answer to that is do not buy one unless you are at least semi-mechanically inclined, because there is work that these things all must have done to them before they can be considered reliable transportation. And I'll get a bit into that later. But yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about the bike. It's a Lifan. It's a 2006, and it's got this motor called a GY6 in it. It's a 4-stroke scooter motor that's in almost all Chinese scooters. There's also a 2-stroke one that's based on a Minarelli, but all 4-strokes have this GY6 engine. And you know, starting off with that, I think that engine is excellent. Very well designed, very reliable, incredibly tough, incredibly easy to work on. I think the GY6 engine is excellent. Okay, so good job, China. Good engine. You know, like I said, I've had a couple of these bikes. Those engines are, you know, you remember to put oil in them and they will go forever, you know. The transmission also, it's built into the engine, is also excellent. It's got a centrifugal clutch and a belt that uses a variator, which works sort of by centrifugal force, and it's very smart, very well designed. It gives excellent acceleration, excellent top speed, so that's definitely great. I mean, as far as scooters go today, these things are basically at, you know, the industry standard. They don't have fuel injection in them yet, but I really don't think that's very good. I'm not a fan of fuel injection, but yeah, I mean, these motors are on par with Japanese motors. There are a couple of issues they tend to have. Some of them have issues with the starter motor, but like, that's not a very hard thing to fix. So yeah, I mean, as far as the engine goes, good job, China, good job. But the couple other things with the bike, you know, if you get away from the engine, that it sort of is a letdown. One of those things I would say is the electrical systems are not very good on these bikes. And I mean, if you have a battery in it that comes from the factory, it's probably going to go bad in, I don't know, 6 months to a year. I would definitely, I mean, use it till it's gone bad, obviously, but I would definitely recommend just going down to Walmart and paying $30 and getting yourself another battery, because those Walmart batteries will go forever and they work just as good. But also, these bikes have, you know, some of the electrical stuff tends to go wrong. Like, I've had flasher units go wrong, CDIs that have stopped working, which is the ignition thing that, you know, gives the bike spark and makes it run. What else? Like I said, the starters are prone to issues. Yeah, just little electronic things. But I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, it's not nearly as bad as like old Italian scooters or anything like that. But yeah, the wiring's cheap and it's not very well routed. I wonder if you might not be able to see it too good, but yeah, wiring is sort of a mess on these. Probably can't see, but there's just sort of like a loom of wires down there. Yeah, so, but I mean, as far as like tires, brakes, what else? The bodywork, the frame, suspension, that's all really good. I mean, people bitch about how these things have like crappy tires. It's not true, they're good. I mean, if you have one with inner tubes in them, Chinese inner tubes are sort of prone to failure. So yeah, I would probably, I mean, the Chinese tires and tubes aren't as good as, like, obviously, like, you know, a good American or Japanese tire. But, you know, they're not bad. For a scooter, it's not very bad quality. Yeah, I mean, I use it for cruising around town. I actually take it to work, which is about 15 miles away. It'll cruise at about 40 miles an hour comfortably. I don't, a lot of people don't seem to realize this, but the GY6 motor is meant to be kept at max power all day. You can run it wide open throttle, or a little bit less than wide open throttle all day. It will not hurt it whatsoever. People don't seem to understand that. People cruise at like 20 on these things and, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to burn the motor up. It's not true. you can run them at full power all day. I have done that to all my scooters. I've had this one couple thousand miles so far, hasn't used a drop of oil. You know, motor still sounds like new. It is not an issue to run these things fast. As far as maintenance goes, very straightforward. The only thing really to do that you really have to do is change your oil, which is simple. Drain it down here. There's a little mesh screen you got to clean out, and then just fill it up here. Just 15 weight 40, 20 50 oil, whatever. Just regular motor oil. Simple job. Yeah, I sort of want to make this video in one take, so I didn't really plan it ahead too good. But what else is there to say about these? Oh yeah, I mentioned a couple things that you have to change on these bikes when you get them from the factory. And these things, there's one thing on it that you absolutely must do, because if you don't, it will 100% fail, and that is replace the fuel hose, the fuel filter, and if your bike has it, the vacuum petcock, which on most of them comes from a little antler down here under the fuel tank, and it looks like a little, it's threaded in, and it's this little thing that has a hose that goes to the intake manifold, and the fuel line's going to it, and it's got a little, like, it's not rubber, but it's got a little seal in there, like a diaphragm seal, and because the Chinese do not put ethanol in their fuel, and they don't seem to, I don't know, realize that America has ethanol in their fuel. Ethanol is a terrible, terrible fuel. It's not even a real fuel. It's just crap they put in there, and it will destroy all of the rubber or whatever materials the Chinese use that's in the fuel hose and the fuel filter, and in this vacuum petcock. It will destroy it. And you might get maybe a year out of the fuel hoses and the filter, but that petcock, I honestly don't see you getting more than a couple months out of it. And what will happen is the seal will go bad in it, and what will happen is you'll have gasoline that will pour directly, bypassing the carburetor and everything. It'll go down the vacuum line and just fill up your crankcase. So I mean, you'll have a bike that's running perfectly fine, and then one day, it'll not start, or it'll run like super rich, like a piece of shit, and smoke and smell bad, and you're wondering what is going on. And it stopped me because I'm more of a, I'm an old school guy. I don't really understand how these new things work too good when I first got into Chinese scooters. But the idea is, it just, when the engine's not running, it seals off the tank so it can't drip extra fuel into the carburetor. The easy way to fix this is to just go to your Home Depot or Home Hardware if you're in Canada or wherever, and just get a regular plumbing fitting and just screw that onto the end of your tank with just the 1/4-inch barb on the end, and then go to the hardware store, get yourself some fuel hose, 1/4-inch or 3/16, and just route that down, and get a fuel filter. You can get them cheap, for lawnmowers and stuff, also at the hardware store, and just put an inline fuel filter in and route that down to your carburetor, and you won't have any more issues as far as that goes. But you should definitely do that, because I mean, you might get a couple months out of it, but I wouldn't ride a bike with the stock, especially the stock vacuum petcock, because those things are just such a pain in the ass. And you'll have them leaking onto the ground, leaking into your engine. There's also instances where they'll not operate properly, and they won't let any fuel down your carburetor, and the engine won't run. So yeah, it's definitely not good. So you have to change that when you get the bike. That's like really important. Another thing that maybe isn't as important, but you should definitely do, is change your engine oil and your gearbox oil. I would recommend, getting the bike, running it for a day or whatever on those stock oils, and then changing it and putting some good stuff in, because the oil that comes out of these engines from the factory it's definitely not what we call motor oil in America. I think the Chinese use mineral oil or something. I don't really know too good what they use there, but it's not the same stuff that we use. And I don't know, I mean, I'm not saying it's less quality or anything, but it probably, knowing the Chinese, is not as good. So I would definitely recommend changing your oil and changing your gearbox oil after the first day. Just to break it in on that old oil and then put new good oil in. And that gearbox I was telling you about just takes regular gear oil. You fill it up there, drain it out the bottom. Pretty straightforward, just regular, 80 weight 90 gear oil. Yeah, so that's another thing you definitely have to change when you get them from the factory. If you do those two things, the bike should be basically like 100% reliable, because they're very simple and there's not a whole lot to go wrong. And I mean, the way people say, are these reliable? And that's a big question people ask. And I say, yeah, they're reliable once you get them to be in a state of reliability, you know? I mean, if you have one of these and you can run it around for, 3-4 days without any incident, it's probably not going to break down anytime in the unforeseeable future, you know? Because it's just so simple, and if everything's working correctly, then it'll probably continue that for a long time. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, once you fix the things that come, wrong with them right from the factory, like the fuel system and that old oil that comes in them, then they should be pretty reliable. Also, the spark plug, you might want to change the spark plug. Chinese spark plugs, they've gotten better in quality, and I've seen people go, 4,000 or 5,000 miles on a stock Chinese spark plug. But, NGK spark plug is what, $3 with shipping? And it's an easy job to fix, so I would just put an NGK in there. Yeah, so I guess I'll go ahead and start it up for you. A lot of people wonder how noisy they are. I have got an aftermarket exhaust. Well, it's not an aftermarket exhaust, but I'll start it up. Oh. There we go. Yeah, I drilled some holes in the exhaust. You might want to do this. I feel it gives better performance. Do that just to drill, one hole is enough. It's pretty restrictive at stock, so I would, definitely open up that exhaust a bit. It's not much louder, yeah. It's a good running little bike, these Chinese bikes. I mean, people talk a lot of shit about them, but they're really not that bad. So yeah, if you have any questions, just go ahead and write them in the, down in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them. And yeah, so bottom line, if you're willing to do a little bit of maintenance on them and, fix those things that need fixing, then I think definitely go ahead and get yourself a Chinese bike. But if you're, some sort of, person who just wants to get one and do nothing to it, just have a key, turn the key and drive it everywhere and not have to worry about anything except filling it up with gas, no, it's not for you, because from the factory it will fail. Almost certainly it will fail if you don't fix the simple things that need fixing. Also, another thing, just in closing, parts. People say that you cannot get parts for these, and I honestly do not know where that comes from, because if you go on eBay and type in like GY6, head or exhaust or piston, etc., etc., you get an infinite amount of parts for dirt cheap. Like, the parts for these Chinese bikes are, I venture to say, more plentiful and cheaper than parts for any motorcycle in the world right now. At least that's how it is in the United States. Chinese bikes parts are easier to get and they're cheaper than for anything else you're gonna find. I don't know why this is, but on eBay, there's so many parts. I mean, there's no real dealers for these, so if you don't know how to use the internet, then that might be an issue, but yeah, loads of parts available online. And, getting parts is not an issue at all. But, yeah, so, in conclusion, they're just, cheap, simple, very fuel efficient way to get around. And, if you're willing to do a little bit of work to them, then it should serve you many years. I know I'm probably getting lots of people commenting, these things are pieces of shit, they break down after 5 days, and all this. If you maintain them, then they should give you a long time of reliable service. So, yeah, I mean, I understand this was probably a bit diffuse, a bit rambling, but, I just wanted to make a video just talking about all the stuff I know about Chinese scooters, because I consider myself, like I said, a bit of an expert on them. So, yeah, that's my Chinese GY6 49cc scooter review, and I kept it in under 15 minutes, so if you stayed and watched the whole thing, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.